governor, and I know data centers are top of mind for so many of you. You're worried about the impact that these projects will have on your electric bill, your water, your jobs, and your community's quality of life. About 24 communities in our state have banned data centers outright. Just as many have fielded inquiries from tech companies about building in their town. New Jerseyans everywhere, from Summit to South Brunswick, are demanding action. I want you to know that I'm listening and putting your interests first. AI is moving at lightning speed. There's no time for 10-year studies that go nowhere. So I hit the ground sprinting. In May, I rolled out the nation's first comprehensive plan to put guardrails on data center development. The plan had 4 pillars. Data centers must pay their fair share for electricity, tell the truth about their energy and water use, invest in the communities where they build, and create good-paying union jobs. It's simple. If you want to build here, you have to play by our rules. My focus is, and always will be, protecting New Jerseyans. We worked all summer to turn those principles into progress. I signed a new law last month that put data centers in a new class of electric ratepayers, so you aren't on the hook for their electric bills. We've required tech companies to cover the cost of connecting to the grid and encourage them to bring more cheap, clean power online. Since day one, I've been on a mission to rein in your utility costs, and this law will help us do just that. Today, I'm sharing the advances we've made on the other 3 pillars. It starts with transparency. New Jerseyans deserve to know how much water and electricity the data centers coming into their community will use. Data center companies often treat their usage statistics like a trade secret that poses a problem for small communities especially. A town of 5,000 needs to know if a data center will consume 15,000 homes worth of water. So I'm signing a bill led by Majority Leader Ruiz and Assemblyman Venetia that forces companies to show their work. From now on, data centers must report how much water and electricity they use to the Board of Public Utilities every 6 months. Here in New Jersey, we're not going to let these developers operate in the shadows. I'm just as focused on making sure data centers are accountable to the communities that they're built in. If you're going to use our land and resources, you better invest here too. That's why we're rolling out new guidance and support to help municipalities negotiate rock-solid community benefits agreements for data center projects. These agreements have 3 main goals: prevent problems, deliver local investments, and create good-paying jobs. First and foremost, these agreements get towns and developers on the same page about issues like excessive noise or lighting before construction starts. Companies need to come to the table with solutions and not just empty promises. And we can use these binding contracts to hold developers accountable if they fall short. At the same time, these agreements will help secure investments from developers and things that matter to you and your community, like a new park or infrastructure upgrades to make your commute easier and your property taxes lower. And they draw clear lines on labor. We're going to make sure companies pay prevailing wage while negotiating project labor agreements on the biggest developments. We know these companies drive a hard bargain, so I'm not going to leave communities on their own to negotiate. New Jersey is standing up a team to help out with these agreements, with experts from the Economic Development Authority, Department of Environmental Protection, and Board of Public Utilities. You can learn more at njeda.gov/datacenterTA. Our administration has your back, and we're ready to support whenever and however we can. Last month, I signed the strongest laws in the nation to take on big tech, protect our kids online. Now we're bringing home more than $500 million from Meta to continue this fight. I wasn't afraid to stand up to the social media companies, and I won't back down from the AI companies either. Decisions about the future of our community should be made here, not in boardrooms or backrooms in Silicon Valley. We don't have to choose between innovation and accountability, and we won't. Today, we're giving power back to communities and making sure data centers work for us instead of the other way around. Now, I'm going to hand things over to someone who's led this fight for transparency and accountability in the legislature, Majority Leader Teresa Ruiz.
Good morning, everyone. I do want to take an opportunity and ask you to do me a favor once again. This is not my first rodeo in presenting a bill that puts forth an agenda that protects our communities and people, but sometimes it doesn't quite make it to the finish line. Governor Sherrill has demonstrated in the last 2 weeks that when bills stall that are the purpose of transparency and the protection of families and communities, she will not back down, she will lean in, she will sign on the dotted line, and she will protect New Jersey. Thank you, Governor Sherrill. You heard it from our Chief Operating Officer. Across the state, municipalities are passing resolutions to keep data centers out of their towns, and families are watching proposals move through local planning boards with little more than just developer projections to go on. New Jersey families deserve to know that when they open their electric bill each month, they aren't subsidizing a massive corporation. They deserve to know their tap water won't be reduced to a drip, and they deserve a government that looks ahead, not plays catch up, putting the right safeguards in place now to responsibly manage an industry whose full impact we are only beginning to understand. New Jersey cannot keep approving large-scale facilities without understanding what they cost us in power, water, and grid capacity. This law answers that. It is a straightforward, common-sense measure requiring data centers to report how much energy and water use, where those resources come from, and how they power and cool their facilities. That information goes to the Board of Public Utilities twice a year and gets summarized for the public. So everyone, not just industry insiders, has a clear picture of the center's impact, and we know what's in our own very backyards. This isn't a one-time disclosure. It is the start of an ongoing public record, and without this data, none of the other work, from cost protections to grid planning, has the facts behind it. For families wondering why their electric bill keeps climbing, this law is a step towards getting answers. For the first time, and we believe the first time in the nation, data centers in New Jersey will have to disclose both their energy and water usage publicly on a fixed schedule to an agency accountable to residents. When we think about what's happening worldwide, and in particular, I think about Puerto Rico in this process, you see the public coming out in droves talking about lack of access to water and electricity. That conversation is not unique to a colonized island. We're hearing that same kind of discussion here in the Garden State. And that's why I'm so honored and proud to partner with a mother and a woman who understands that our first responsibility is not caving into the corporate center, it's protecting our children and families. Thank you, Governor Sherrill, for signing this bill, for protecting our families, for holding data centers accountable, and ensuring innovation never comes at the expense of our residents' wallets and, of course, Mother Earth. Without further ado, hailing from Essex County, I know that I have Senator Raj Mukherjee in the House, who's a co-sponsor of the bill, and other assembly members that my next partner will introduce. From the 34th District in the Township of Bloomfield, Mike Venezia.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to thank Governor Mikie Sherrill for signing this bill today. You are making clear to the world that New Jersey, the health and wellness of our residents and communities will always be your top priority. I also want to thank our champion in the Senate, my dear friend. I joke around and call her my big sister occasionally, but she doesn't like me saying that because it reveals her age a little bit, but she's only 26, I promise you.
But I'm the one who has hair.
For her steadfast leadership on this issue. I am proud to sponsor this bill in the Assembly because legislation is part of a larger conversation on the role of AI and data centers, how they play into our society. It holds this developing industry accountable to the great people of this state, requiring them to submit water and energy usage reports to the BPU so we can understand the demands data centers place on our energy grid. This is responsible governance. We need a clearer picture of what the impact actually looks like here in New Jersey. Requiring consistent reporting will help ensure that government works alongside the industry so we can avoid playing catch up. As this industry continues to grow, greater transparency will help us protect our resources, address affordability concerns, and make informed decisions about New Jersey's energy future. I want to thank my colleagues in the Assembly. I see Assemblyman Kevin Egan here with us today, and Assemblywoman Rosie Bagoli, and in the Senate for getting this bill through. I am proud to stand alongside Governor Sherrill as it gets signed into law today. Now up, we have the great mayor of this township of South Brunswick, Charlie Carley.
I'm going to repeat everyone. Good morning. This is a good day for South Brunswick. Governor, Senator, Assembly people, Assembly person, and just you have the lovely ladies of our Township Council lined up before you. So the Township Council and all our neighbors in South Brunswick are, as always, grateful when you come to South Brunswick. So thank you very much. I think what today is all about is a recognition that this world is always changing. Change is immutable, that's for sure. Change requires adaptation, and competent adaptation, not willy-nilly adaptation, relies on real leadership. And that's what the governor gives us. And she deserves a round of applause for a very long time. In May, Governor Sherrill announced the most comprehensive plan for data center guardrails in the nation. And then she did something amazing. She delivered, and she delivered fast. In July, she signed fair share legislation. Data centers must now bring in their own clean energy and invest in the grid we all share, so that growth lowers costs instead of raising them. Earlier this week, she issued guidance that empowers communities like South Brunswick to negotiate community benefit agreements on equal footing with developers. So these facilities answer for noise, for light, pollution, and leave a lasting local investment behind. That's important. The governor issued labor standards as well, which I know is important to those gentlemen over there, calling for good paying construction jobs, prevailing wages, and work for our local trades. And today, right here, she'll sign legislation requiring data centers to report their energy and water usage. Transparency and accountability are the hallmarks of this bill. This, as we heard earlier, was announced at the beginning of this summer. We're still in this summer, and it's being delivered today. That's leadership with a capital L. With these guardrails, the governor is giving communities like ours the power and a real say on the path forward. It provides us the tools to hold these centers accountable while ensuring that we can participate in and benefit from the AI innovation happening in our state on our own terms. The bottom line is data centers will have to play by our rules if they want to be a part of our communities. And it tells every town in this state, not just South Brunswick, that Governor Sherrill stands with us. So today, again, we thank Governor Sherrill for her leadership. We look forward to supporting these efforts here in South Brunswick and across this great state. Thank you very much. With us, and she'll be up next, is Allison McLeod from the New Jersey League of Conservation Voters.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Governor Sherrill, and to Senator Ruiz, Assemblyman Venezia, and all of the elected officials in the crowd here today. And also thank you to our partners, and thank you to the members of the public who have made their concerns known and who now can see, as so many have said before me, that they have an administration and they have a legislature that listens to them, and a municipality as well. So thank you, Mayor. We're proud to join these leaders today in recognizing this important step and making sure that data center industry in New Jersey is responsible, transparent, and fair to everyone who calls the Garden State home.
AI and the technology behind it are transforming our economy and our daily lives, but that transformation cannot come at the expense of New Jersey's families, small businesses, workers, or our environment. The data centers powering this technology require extraordinary amounts of electricity and water. A single large data center can power as much as approximately 80,000 homes. And as these facilities expand, we need to understand exactly what that growth means for our electric grid, our water resources, and ultimately the electric bills that New Jersey's working families pay. And that's why this legislation is so important. Requiring data center owners and operators to just report their energy and water usage is simply common sense. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. And policymakers need this information to make responsible decisions about our energy future. And without that accurate information, we don't know how much they're using. So for New Jersey LCB and for many of our partners, this is fundamentally about affordability and about resource protection. Families should not have to shoulder higher electric bills because industrial users have unprecedented demands on our grid. Small businesses should not have to compete with some of the largest corporations and energy consumers in the world for access to our electricity and resources. And our environment and our water must be protected. Transparency gives us the information we need to chart the path forward and to get this right, and that's what this legislation does. This bill is important and in building on Governor Sherrill's plan announced earlier this year for data center guardrails because it gives public regulators and policymakers the facts, which will help us build a future where environmental stewardship is part of all innovation. Thank you again to the governor and to the legislature for making this bill a reality. We are grateful for your leadership and for recognizing that New Jersey's future must work for everyone. Not just the companies that are building the next generation of technology, but the families who live here, pay the bills, and depend on a healthy environment. So we're so grateful to be here today and proud to have supported this legislation. Thank you.
Negotiations, towns are making decisions whether or not they want to move forward in this. If they choose to move forward, then we're going to have their back because we've seen in too many cases that big tech has been able to roll communities, not give them a lot of say, make these deals, and suddenly communities are left holding the bag while people in Silicon Valley make billions of dollars. We are drawing the line here. So we'll help communities, we'll have their back at the table so they can negotiate these complicated deals and ensure that there will not be too much water or power usage. And then we will be monitoring to make sure that they are following through on the deals that they make with communities. So in order to move forward, it's at both ends. It's both being there to have the backs of communities as they negotiate these agreements and ensure we're negotiating agreements that prevent any overusage of water or power, make sure that they're actually driving down utility costs rather than driving them up, as we've seen across the nation. And at the same time, then monitoring that so we know that they've fulfilled their commitments.
Are we having issues with some of the data centers right now?
We're still working with communities on some of the previous agreements that have been in place to check in with them and make sure that they are understanding these guardrails to make sure that they can hold any current data centers accountable.
Shashi Sharma, X11 News. Why not just put a moratorium in place? And is there any plan to stop local municipalities from putting in place their own moratorium?
There's nothing in place to stop local municipalities. We have really strong local control. We want to give towns power. There are some towns with huge industrial parks where it might make sense for them to develop. There are some towns where it might not. And our communities can make those decisions. What we're here to do is to back the communities up so that if they want to move forward, we are going to have their backs with expertise to make sure that they understand all of the negotiations to ensure that this is right for their community, that they understand how to ensure that they get the results that they want, and at the same time that then we're then holding them accountable. That's why this is the most comprehensive plan in the nation, and we started early. I heard again and again that we were facing a crisis here on costs. One of the key drivers was utility costs, and one of the key drivers in those utility costs was data centers, because we're a regional grid and other states have really overdeveloped data centers. So here in New Jersey, we're making sure that we're getting ahead of the problem in a really powerful way, and we're doing it incredibly quickly, as you've heard today. We're making sure we're holding them accountable, that they are reporting their water and energy uses, that they're bringing their own power, so they're not driving up the power costs of utility payers across our state, that they're investing in our grid. We have some of the oldest grid in the nation. We want to actually have a benefit from data centers, not have them driving up costs, but rather driving down utility costs. And then each town is different. Each town is going to have different needs, require different things. The community benefits, as you heard from the mayor, are going to allow towns to say, look, if you're coming into my town, you're playing by my rules. That's what we're giving the power to the state of New Jersey in a way that's very different from what we've seen across the nation.
Any follow-up?
Will they be required to upgrade the power grids?
We are asking them, yes, too. If they're using our power grid, which they will be, then yes, they're putting in upgrades to the power grid. That's part of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Which is incredible. I mean, we need power, we need grid upgrades here in New Jersey. As I mentioned, it's one of the oldest grids in the nation. That'll cost billions of dollars. So having data centers invest in that grid could be a really good way of driving down some of the costs if it makes sense for communities.
Hi, Governor, good morning. Just a couple of quick questions. So when you get that data, are there numbers that you think would be unacceptable in terms of the water usage or the energy consumption? Is there a threshold or a framework that is acceptable versus unacceptable? What are these good paying jobs that these data centers could create? And then maybe this is more for the mayor, but what is the status of data centers in South Brunswick? I know it's a big issue here. What is the latest?
So we have different ability to power different projects across the state. So that's why these negotiations will take into account what kind of power is available and what kind of power we're demanding for these data centers to bring. So, and how they're going to bring it, and making sure that the community is comfortable with the power they're bringing, et cetera. So that's why I say that gets negotiated at the table. And then we're going to make sure that they fulfill the promises and the commitments they made to the community. So in cases across the country, we've seen, they come in, they say one thing's going to happen, and then something very different happens to that community. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen here, and we're going to hold them accountable. And then the second party, well, you might see some gentlemen here from our trade unions. These are the kind of good jobs. They're the good union jobs that we will help ensure here, so that instead of coming in and not providing good wages, good benefits, we have data centers building, and then some billionaire in Silicon Valley makes $1 billion more, while everyone here pays more money in electricity and nobody has a good job. We are going to make sure that they are investing not just in our communities, but in our workforce as well.
Last question, Charlie.
Yeah, thanks. Governor Hochul in New York did sign a one-year moratorium on large-scale data center development. Is that something you're considering? If not, why not? What do you have to say to folks who are calling on you to institute the same kind of policy?
So as New York rolled out their moratorium, they were doing so based on the fact that they needed time to develop data center guardrails like the ones we've already put in place here. You can see that they've listed, look, we are over the next year going to develop guardrails, bringing your own power, reporting your energy usage, reporting your water usage, all of that stuff. And I think because in New Jersey, we had already, through the transition team, through the, I'd say, best-in-class energy team in the nation right now in our state, we have moved incredibly quickly on the guardrails that we want in place now, because we don't want to see more community, we don't want to see communities harmed here in New Jersey, and we just have to look across the nation to see what it looks like when you don't have a strong state government that's willing to go toe-to-toe with big tech and make sure our communities are safe.
Can we just get an answer to the question on South Brunswick?
I'm sorry, yes, what was that? You want to repeat the question?
Yeah, it was just, what is the status of the data center in South Brunswick?
Well, this is an issue that's evolved in the recent past. There's 2 data centers that have been in South Brunswick for many decades without much fanfare, and they have provided great jobs, pathway to the middle class for men and women in organized labor. I won't apologize for them. They predate my time here, and they've been great residents of South Brunswick. There is a new data center, and that's been built. It's there. It's an expression of the future progress. And so what this legislation does is it acknowledges a changing world, and it provides guardrails to protect the ratepayers relative to electricity. It's a big issue in the state, right? I'm not just the first guy to figure that out. So in South Brunswick, we have had data centers. We're comfortable with them going forward. The governor gives us the tools to talk to the developers of data centers on an equal footing. And the governor makes sure that the juice, I guess it's a non-technical term, the juice that's pulled out of the grid is put back into the grid by those developers.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor. Can I just wrap up by saying what I think we're doing here in New Jersey is flipping the script. In too many cases, you've seen data centers come in, make billions of dollars, and people are left holding the bag with higher utility costs or less water, environmental concerns. What we're doing is saying, look, if you guys want to come in, then we're going to make sure workers are making money. We're going to make sure that you're actually driving down costs for people using utilities. We're going to make sure that you are providing a community benefit, that you are investing in the communities that you want to work in, being better community members. I think this is what our great companies do already. This is what we're demanding here in New Jersey, that good companies continue to do, and if you don't want to operate in that way, then you're really not welcome.